Mithrilhawks are a secret organization of adventurers and agents whose principal aim is to prevent an alien invasion by the race of beings known as the Chuthules, a humanoid cephalopod race of psyonic squid-like conquerors who enslave worlds. The Mithrilhawks were formed by Xavier Waverider to prevent this ongoing threat and help keep the civilizations of Earthal in balance through the 5 ages. Our intrepid adventurers are Sundu Thunderglade, a third-aged Fey-elf druid sent forward in time to the 4th age of Earthal to determine the best place for his tribe to store the Tui Stone, a relic of unimaginable power, used to destroy one of the moons in the apocalyptic battle between dragons and giants at the end of the 2nd Age. He is horned, green-skinned with bioluminescent markings, and can transform into a giant teleporting tiger-like being of immense strength and agility. Played by Kurt. Lachlan Windshear, a half-elf rogue artificer wizard mercenary from the 4th Age of Earthal, who was orphaned and taken in and trained by the Mithrilhawks. He relishes in unique magic items, creating them and running a small mercenary band that supports the Mithrilhawks intelligence network. He serves as the guide to this unlikely and very secretive trio, played by Redfoot. And John Loyal Chambers, a Special Forces operative from the very human 5th Age of Earthal, who operates in a special access program called the Jumpgate Project, run by General Hawk. He was sent back in time to the 4th Age to determine the whereabouts of the Tui Stone and report back so the Jumpgate Project could locate it and use it to defeat the invading cephalopods of the Chuthule race. He has a religious experience during this time travel jump and becomes a paladin for Columbia Mithrael, the female elven deity of justice and healing, played by Tennant. Each of our adventurers are guided by their age's version of Xavier Waverider, and each have their own mission. Will they work together to accomplish their specific missions, or will they face something even more daunting and challenging, discovering untold secrets that they had never suspected and challenging them to their very cores? Find out in the Mithrilhawks' search for the Tui Stone. In this episode, our intrepid adventurers uncover the mystery of the infiltrating Oni and discover where they have come from and why, chasing down clues so they might find the Queen of Guangzhou. Greetings, adventurers and true believers. We are picking up with the Mithrilhawks' search for the Tui Stone. Our intrepid adventurers have made their way to Guangzhou and met with Shinto Ji, the leader of the Guangzhou clan, to whom the Tui Stone was bequeathed by the Thunderglade clan at the beginning of the 4th Age, where we find our adventurers at the very dawn of the Guangzhou Empire, where Lachlan Windshear, the wizard rogue mercenary, has created some business, right? He started some wine and spice business at the Golden Lotus Inn where they had spent the night previous. And when they came into town, they had found a burgeoning village of agricultural design where the young burgeoning empire is fledglingly found, and all of the people recognized that Sundu Thunderglade was an elf of the 4th Age and one of the progenitors of their race, and they even had in the town square an effigy, a stone statue of a female elf of the 4th Age, one that he recognized quite distinctly. And given the message that they had received on the Mithril scroll previously at Dzu's cave, underwater cave, we've come to ascertain that the relationship between Sundu and this elf of his age, who was not chosen for the task that Sundu was, and who seemed to be bitter about it, might have something to do with the way that they're unfolding on their adventures now. And so Sundu Thunderglade, the druid elf from the 4th Age, is here, and so is Loyal Chambers, the very human mercenary black ops specialist fighter, now paladin from the very human Fifth Age, has come back in time, and they've all made their way to Guancho Castle. And they met the prince. They met. They actually didn't meet the prince. They met the Shinto and his wife. And it turns out that the Shinto's wife and two of her maidens were actually ogre mages. A battle ensued in the room with the Tui Stone, and through some very cunning maneuvers, Lachlan was able to hang and noose around, using his grappling hook, around one of these ogre mages, lifted him up into the air, vaulted him into the air to choke him, but in doing so, knocked into the Tui Stone. While Sundu was in battle with one of the ogre mages alongside the Shinto, it was up to Loyal to go and stop the Tui Stone from coming out of its electromagnetic gravitic harness. And so he grabbed it, and in doing so, a short circuit took place, and an immense amount of power floated through the Tui Stone and vaporized everybody within the pedestals, within the pedestals there holding the Tui Stone. And what ended up happening was they were vaporized, but he survived. And he was knocked out. And while they took out the last ogre mage, they all turned to see that Prince Ji Zhan had killed the ogre mage, and they were hoping to get some information, but they found out that the queen is still alive and being held by the ogre mage's master. And at some little background here is that these ogre mages of this Fourth Age are very degenerate compared to the ogre mages that Sundu knew in the Third Age. They were an organized society, much like the very lawful evil denizens of of Hades, let's say. They were organized, and they had a hierarchical system in their society that was very sophisticated. But these folks, these three ogre mages, mentioned the fact that their master was in charge here, and that the queen was captured at the master's cave, and that how ironic it is that the races between Sundu's Fey Elf ancestry and these ogre mages, which was such a sincere and distinct rivalry, like an animosity that went back generations and countless ages, that now that they would be working together, and that they are looking for the Tui Stone as well. And that is where we left off when they all turned to see that Loyal was actually alive and awake, and he had said, guys, we have a problem here. Meanwhile, lightning was arcing from the Tui Stone to him and seemingly not harming him. And here we are.
Alright, so immediately Sundu is going to reach for the stone on his crown, which activates the vision shield. There's
Right.
a crystalline amethyst
Heads-up display.
visor that
Yeah.
pops up in front of his face. Provides a small amount of protection, but in this case, he's using it to analyze whatever magic is occurring with the Tui Stone. So he's going to drop a Arcana check real quick here. If I can make it work. Here we go.
And as he's doing that, I am going to, as I'm talking to Loyal, walk over to the first nearest, closest dead ogre mage.
Yeah.
And search the body and be like, "So, are you okay?"
Okay.
I believe so. What happened? I really don't remember what happened. Last thing I knew, I tried to stabilize the stone and everything went black.
So
That's pretty much what I saw too.
yeah, here's what you experienced, Tenet, when that happened. You saw the Tui Stone at its current size and shape, but bifurcate and turn into like a fractal, millions of them, right? And those millions of them entered into your body and were the size of, they're smaller than cells. They're like sizes of atoms and quarks, subatomic particles. And infused in your body, you saw, it was basically like you were tripping, and you saw that all of the cells at the very smallest level and all the atoms of your body were actually Tui Stones, right? At a very subatomic level, like you are comprised and made up of Tui Stones. Now, that it was kind of like a wild trip where you saw all your blood cells, you shrank into your body and into the cells until you magnified, and saw all these floating Tui Stones in that, right? But you don't know necessarily. Maybe you don't know how to put that into words right now because it's a really odd thing to experience, right? But you sort of get. And while that's happening, you see. Remember the angels when you were traveling back in time and you met Columbia Mithrael?
Yeah.
And there were these angels on the periphery of the energetic field. You saw those same angels like moving these Tui stones within your body. So it was like this like transcendent experience, but it's so fresh. It's like, how do you actually explain that? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So
For now, I'll probably just stick with the I don't know what happened, just for the sake of while my character's mulling over like what the fuck just happened.
yeah. And meanwhile, electricity's still arcing from you, and you feel like what you saw also was that you would be able to take your sword and hold it in front of you in a way that was like you were calling forth Columbia Mithrael, and you could feel the Tui stones at the subatomic level in your sword, and you would be able to channel some of its divinity or some of its power.
Well, and that's kind of what I was just thinking. Like, instead of just with the sword itself, like if I'm still kind of like arcing electricity between my fingers and stuff, I definitely my hand extends towards the nearest wall, and in a manner where I'm like, shit, can I shoot electricity now?
And you aim at one of the four pillars. These four pillars right around the center of the Tui Stone, which is hovering there just fine right now. And Redfoot, the only ogre mage that is still vapor, like still embodied and not burnt to a crisp, is the one that Prince Jijan fired at. So you, Loyal, aim your hand with the arcing electricity towards the podium there, and nothing happens. You're still arcing, but like you're not shooting anything out.
Okay.
All right. So Sundu, when you're looking at the stone, you see that it's back. It's back within its calibrated. Within its working parameters, and you actually in your vision shield in the heads-up display you see like elven runes and all of the different metrics for the electromagnetic field, and like the chandelier is actually the governor, which keeps it in operational parameters so that it doesn't fry or go like overboard. And once that you moved the Redfoot, once he got his grappling hook back and stopped the short circuit, everything went back into optimal operational parameters. You do not see anything resembling the Tui Stone. Like you do not see anything in Loyal. Like when you look at him, you see you see the heads-up display signature for him, like his biometrics, are very similar now and shifted a little bit and similar to the Tui Stone, but not the same.
Oh.
You know, it would be like saying if you're playing an A chord and a C chord together, like they actually go well together. Let's say.
Okay, they're like almost in harmony.
Yeah, they sound good together. Is a way to put it together, right?
Cool.
So Redfoot, what you find on the Ogre Mage is you find a spell book, and you find a scroll, and you also find some herbs in a particular canister, like a they're not just in a bag, they're in like a glass jar with a cork lid. Okay? And you if you want to make a check on your nature check, you can go ahead and do that. But the Shinto comes up and he says he's angry, and he's talking to the vizier, and he's saying, "Prince, what are you doing here, Prince Jijan?" You know, and Jijan's like, "What happened to Mom? What was that? What is going on?" And he's like, "I'm," and he calmed down a minute. Prince, the Shinto did, and he's like, "Something has gone terribly wrong. Something has happened terribly wrong, and we must get to the bottom of this." And he says, "You did well, and I honor you for doing the killing blow. We were going to interrogate that creature and find out where your mother was." And he turns to the vizier and he says, "Viziri, how long? What is going on?" And he's, as he says that to Viziri kind of looks at you, Sundu, and looks back at the king, at the Shinto, and he's like, Your Highness, it would appear that we have been infiltrated. And he's like, I know this. And he turns to you, Sundu, and he's like, explain to me what is happening here, revered honored one.
It is hard for me to say at this time exactly what has happened. Obviously, you know that you have been infiltrated, but I am not sure what the intention of the ogre mages was, the Oni. It sounds like they're trying to get it themselves, but what I don't understand is why they would have delayed in trying to get it until I appeared. I know our species are enemies, mortal enemies, going generations back. But it seems like if they were only here for the Tui Stone, they could have taken it at any time.
He says, yes, that makes sense.
To me, I'm sorry.
No, he says, yes, that makes sense. Why wouldn't they have moved until you have arrived? What terrible fortune have you brought before us? Go ahead, Lachlan.
It seems to me that they... Oh, hold on one second. I'm sorry. Let me get myself into character. It seems to me that if they waited this time until you showed up, they probably weren't trying to get the stone.
And then the vizier steps in, and he's like trying to be important and be involved and like bring some value to the conversation. And he says, we need to discover how long they have been here in this form, and we need to understand where they have come from. Is there anything, and he turns to you, Lachlan, and he says, is there anything that you have found that would give a clue to this?
So, the scroll, oh, by the way, I rolled a 22 on my nature check.
Okay, so you know that these herbs particularly are used for basically what amounts to a serious like indigestion and digestion issues, right? And that they come from a very specific location in the desert where the mountains meet the desert.
Okay, so while everyone was talking and not paying attention, I would have pocketed the spell book and the scroll to look at later.
Okay.
Since I noticed the herbs, and I hold up the herbs and I say, judging from this, I think they're coming from this certain area in the desert, basically, and I explain why I theorize that.
Okay. And Prince Jijan says, "Oh, that is one of Shu's bottles."
Shoot.
Shu is, and you say Shu, and he's like, Viziri says, yes, our alchemist, our medicine maker. And then the Shinto says, he says, get Shu in here now, bring him here, and he says, better yet, let's all go to his place. So, what's going to happen is you guys are going to go to Shu's alchemy lab, which is, Redfoot, if you remember, the spot where there is a way...
Remember.
Okay, great. There is a way in and out of the castle from Shu's place.
Oh, okay.
And where it's located in the castle is right here.
What
This-
part? Oh,
this-
yeah, the southeast
Yeah.
tower there.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay,
Cool.
great. So you guys barge in, and he's just like, down here cutting up some herbs and stuff. And Prince Jijan barges in, and the vizier is trying to like get in front of him and be like, His Excellent, and the prince just like shuts the Shinto shuts him up, and he's like, Shu, answer to me now. What is this? And he holds up that bottle which he had taken from you, Lachlan, on his way through the doorways and everything. Just grabbed it out of your hand, right? And he says, and Shu looks at it, and he's looking at you and Sundu, and he's looking at Lachlan and oh, and by the way, Loyal.
I don't know him.
Yeah, Loyal. Do you walk with everybody? I'm assuming you would.
Yeah, I'm definitely safe staying with the group. I'm probably honestly like in a state of like daze. Like I'm still coming to terms with the connection with the stone, so I'm kind of just following along everybody, just kind of like contemplating what the fuck just happened while we're still in the process of all this.
Great. So when you walk out of those 4 pillars and in that space that's holding the Tui Stone in hovering, when you walk out, you feel like a little bit of a resistance, like as though you're walking through Jello for a second, like a thin sheet of Jello. And when you pop out, the electricity like hangs onto you and like holds you in a sense, and then like pops off you, you know, like a solar.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay.
I was gonna.
So let me explain. You kind of.
Thing I heard was walking out of Jello.
Yeah, if you walk outside of the containment unit for the Tui Stone, it's like the resistance. It's like almost like it's pulling you back, and you pop out of the little bubble there. The nobody can really see the bubble except for Sundu, but to him it's just an energy field. Like he doesn't feel it, right? But it's almost like you have to pop out of an egg or something, like a soft gelatinous mass that you just walk out of, and the electricity sort of holds onto you and then drifts off, and you pop off and you walk out and you are no longer electrified. You're not sparking electricity or anything. But when you do that, you see Sundu and Lachlan. You can tell that there are Tui stones, like the really tiny ones that are in your bloodstream, that are entering and moving through their bloodstream. Okay?
Whoa, and those two, not just me?
Correct.
Oh, wow.
But not to the same degree. Like you are comprised of it, but you can tell that there is some of it in them. Got it?
Okay.
All right. So you guys walk into the room, and Shu is there, and by the way, Fauji is there from the Golden Lotus, Redfoot.
Oh, yeah. And I feel like I don't know him.
Yeah, good. And Shu comes in, and he pretends like he doesn't know you either. And he's just like astonished at all of these guys. And Shu is like, the Prince Shinto-ji is like, what is the meaning of this? What is this? And he looks at it, and he's like, I made this for the princess. For the queen, just yesterday. Is she doing better? She said she had some problems with digestion, and the food was not setting with her well. And and he says it's been quite a while she's been taking this, and it seems to be helping.
When did it start? How long ago did it start, her stomach problem?
And he looks at you. It's almost as if he didn't even see you. Like he didn't look at any of these folks. And he looks at you, and he's like, and he looks at the Shinto, and he's like,
Again, I can't hear Hawk.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Hold on a second, guys.
and she's looking, and she's saying, Shu is looking at Sundu and looking at the Shinto, and the Shinto's like, it's okay. The Guardians have come back, but there has been, calamity has befallen us. Answer his questions. And he says, I'm so sorry. Thank you. It's good to see you. Thank you for gracing. And he's like, the Shinto's like, just get on with it. And and Shu says, he says, oh God, it's been like 3 months now, right? And he turns to Fauji and he says, right? And Fauji looks and he says, yeah, I would say about that. And he kind of looks at you like askance, Lachlan. And back like gauging whether you saw him say that or know that he has any information, why he would have information about this. And so so
I kind of missed a little bit there earlier. So basically, he said he's been giving it to the princess for the past 3 months.
And he looked to his buddy Fauji. Yeah, and he looked to his buddy Fauji to be like, "Is that sound about right to you?" And Fauji was like, yes. And he looked at you to gauge whether or not you perceived that he has that kind of closeness and relationship that he would know about the princess or the queen's medicine.
Okay.
That kind of shit is really like nobody talks about. He's got to be somebody to be that close to have that kind of information, or to be accessing that information, or have access to it. You know what I mean? So at that point, the Shinto turns to you, Sundu, and he says, does that answer your question? 3 months. What does this have to do with anything? Is that how long, my queen? And he kind of like falters a little bit, has been one of these creatures?
Mhm. Well, at this point,
You can
it's
tell a
only
lot of thoughts are going
hypothesis.
through his head right there.
It's only a hypothesis at this point, but I suspect that this change may have coincided with the transformation that occurred. So he's being like intentionally vague here because he doesn't want to like blow up this new secret in front of this alchemist guy, you know?
Cool. And he catches that, and he's like, and you can see that as a ruler, he has so many things going on. He has to consider so many different aspects of every situation, how it's going to affect his people, how it's going to affect, the negotiations with the neighboring tribe, who knows what. And he recognized that you have that decorum, and it kind of reminded him of like, oh yes, he says, so he recognized that, and he was like, it's almost like you called him to step up a little bit, and he's like, indeed. He says, and where is it that we get this herb, Shu? And Shu looks at around, and he's like, well, frankly, it comes from the northern or the western Shinju Mountains, and you know that. Why don't you guys do a history check? Because you were taught this in the montage.
Montage. Right now, Lachlan is really thinking hard about like, why the hell would an ogre mage need herbs for indigestion, and what other use might they have had?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. What do you do about it? That question.
Well, I'm getting ready to ask, but I got a 15 on that history check. But I've been kind of I don't know if I should roll an intelligence check for like mental calculations as far as what that might be used for, or some kind of nature check.
I'm just going to show you the world map real quick and the region.
I got a natural 20 for medicine.
Nice. So, this herb is also really good for increasing telepathy, but it's also really good for like increasing one's natural psychic abilities, right? But it's that's sort of like the old wives' tale kind of medicine for it, but that it is also really, really good for it's something that helps deal with parasites. Okay?
Parasites.
Yeah, and what it does is it prevents parasites.
Like physical parasites?
Yeah,
or...
like it's an anti-parasitic.
Okay. Huh.
Okay?
All right. I am going to.
So you see on the map where I'm clicking?
Yeah.
So that is the region where this particular herb comes from, and basically what he says is that this is where it comes from, Fauji, right? This is where you get your guys to bring it from? And he looks at him, he says, and he bows honorably, and he's like, yes, master. Yes, meister. He's not calling him master, he's giving him respect as a master alchemist, right?
And where in regard to, can you ping on the map which city we're in again, just so I can...
Yep.
Okay, so we're down over here.
That's right.
On the right, and it's up there on the left.
Yeah, and
The
you guys came in this gate, right? And then you went down this way. You dealt with Zizu right about there. You dealt with the guards right about there, and you went to the Golden Lotus right about here, right outside town.
Okay.
Okay, in this wet area. And Fauji says, yes, this is where my people get this particular herb for you. As you know, and he looks at you, Lachlan, and you kind of infer that he's letting you know how he's here. He's giving you kind of like a side, kind of like a sense of understanding of his perspective and position in this establishment, in this hierarchy. And he's saying, I have my men gathering herbs for all over the kingdom for you, for this very important work that you do here for our kingdom.
Okay. I've got 2 questions.
Yeah.
One, are Shu and Faiju different people, or is that the same person?
No, Faiju is the rogue that you met at the Golden Lotus.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, and Shu is a different person. It's not like Avatar: The Last Airbender, where Shu puts on the hat and the other guy puts on the hat, and he's like, it's not that.
So is Faiju like the assistant?
Faiju's helping him gather herbs from all over the kingdom and having his men do that.
Okay. All right. My other question is this: do we, would I know? Do we have any kind of way? I bet we do. Some do.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have? Does your visor allow you to examine things on a microscopic level, such as blood?
You can, yeah. Yep, I'm going to go ahead and say you can.
Okay, cool.
But it's not like modern tech, where you can, microscopes and this and that, but you can get energy signatures, and you can get what is basically like an energy reading, right? You're not going to have detailed blood count levels and that kind of thing. You're gonna it's going to be like tracking, but at an atomic level.
Okay, so with that in mind, I'm gonna turn to the Emperor and I say, Emperor, if I may ask, may I please take, and I kind of gesture towards Faiju, and I say, may I please take him to help me get something from the ogre mage that I believe might give us some more information.
And Faiju looks at the Emperor, Shu looks at the Emperor, and Faiju looks at Shu. Shu's like, yeah, that's fine with me. And the Emperor says, Prince Zizhan, you take them. And so the 14-year-old boy is guiding you back to the room to where the ogre mage is. All right, Sundu, you and Loyal are still in the room with the Emperor and the Shu.
Lachlan, did you need my expertise? Did you need me to come with you?
I think he wants some alone time with Fauji.
Yeah, I suppose, but I will need you. But I think, actually, yeah, Sunday better come with us too.
Because you wanted me to look at their blood with the visor or something, right?
But I'm also trying to talk to Faiju alone without other people around.
Oh, well then you do that. I didn't get that. I didn't get that.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I'll pull you back in.
Okay. So.
Okay. Well, let me know when you need me. But so I'm here with the Shinto still, right?
Yeah, you're here with the Shinto and Loyal and Shu and the Vizier.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask, I guess Shinto and the Vizier about. Have you had any dealings with these Oni before? Have they bothered your people like they've bothered mine?
He says, he looks at the Vizier, he says, not in my life, and he says, Viziri, what say you? And he says, there were stories that in the beginning of our village, after your people gave us the Tui Stone, that things progressed well for our people. It is told that the stories were of bounty and much sharing from your tribes to ours, and have helped us develop our life here in this world. Our ancestors are from another world, and he looks at the Shinto, and he says, where your family were rulers, and he says, where you rightfully were rulers, and he says, and so as that has come to pass, you have come here to this world, and we have built a civilization here, and you're doing it incredibly well. And he's like, and he says, and we were gifted the Tui Stone and ways to grow and ways to live on this planet. And over time, Zavifa showed us how to live, what to be, how to take care of the Tui Stone, and how to make sure that it stays in operational boundaries. And he says, and it was only in the at your great grandfather's time was there a story of Oni attacking infiltrating the castle. And they made it to the room of the Tui Stone, but they were stopped. We never understood what they were here for, but it seems like now we would.
Well, surely we must escalate the scrutiny of the guards here in this facility.
And he says, how do we know? And then the prince or the Shinto is like, his eyes go big. He's like, how do we know that not other guards are not these Oni? And Shu looks around. Viziri looks at Shu and he's like, are you able to devise a test? Is there a way to determine? He's like, I would have to see the blood I would have to do tests on the blood of the Oni. So we'll go to Lachlan. I'm sorry, Loyal. Do you want to say anything before we go to?
Yeah, and so kind of what I was thinking thinking is, I don't know too much about how things work here in this time, and but if these guys were after a certain herb, that to me means it was something they needed to survive. So if there's anyone else who requested that herb here within the bounds of this castle, I think they would be suspect, and we should definitely go after them first and test them.
And the Shinto is like, that's a really good idea. Is that possible? Has anybody been else taking these herbs? And Shu is like, no, Queen G was the only one. All right, Lachlan, you're walking. You've got Prince Zizhan leading you guys back to the body.
Okay. If I feel like this is a thing that I can do comfortably, I'd like to cast Message, which is a cantrip, and it's basically allows me to like send a whisper just to one person's ear so that other people won't hear it.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask Faiju, have you seen...
Fauji,
sorry. Have you seen the prince or the emperor or the vizier or anyone else in power making any kind of strange decisions as of late, as we're walking?
and he says you should have told me. Oh, so you're doing this whisper, right? What are the mechanics of that?
So it says you point a finger toward a creature within range and whisper a message. The target and only the target hears the message and can reply in a whisper that only you can hear. You can cast this spell through solid objects if you're familiar with the target, however it is beyond the barrier.
Okay, great. And how long does it last?
1 round.
Okay, so he says no. This is he doesn't even know what happened. So he's like no. In what way? What do you mean?
How much time do we have to go back and forth like this?
We'll just keep going back and forth, and I'll tell you when.
Okay. What I mean is that I think it's quite possible that one of two things is happening here. And the first one, I think, is that possibly people in this kingdom are being telepathically controlled to make decisions that would bring them downfall.
And he says, so you are here to help.
We are.
And he says, no, nobody has acted out of sorts that I can ascertain, and I have people in the kingdom and in the castle. He says, what is happening?
Well, it seems that you have an ogre mage infestation.
And he doesn't know what that means. He doesn't know that they can take other people's forms and impersonate them. And so when you say that you have an ogre infestation problem, you guys come upon the dead ogre mage, and he looks and he's like, oh shit, and he's like, so what do you need? Blood?
I want some blood.
Okay.
And perhaps other forms of.
So some tissue or something.
Bodily samples that we can get.
Okay. So all right, that's actually a great roll. So you guys get some samples and you walk back to the room. You come back into the room with everybody, and Fauji says, Master, I have blood sample, some urine sample from the bladder, some life sample from the balls, and basically he just gives him a bunch of different pieces of the ogre mage.
And I say, Sundu, can you examine this?
Sundu's kind of taken aback by this pile of gore that you just offered.
Well, he didn't.
Covered in gore and blood.
Yeah, he didn't do. I mean, he did it really cleanly. Like he knows this guy and knows how he works, so he actually took little samples, put them in jars, and that sort of thing. So it's not a mess.
Okay, cool.
And you can actually hold the vials up and see like a piece of blood tissue or semen or urine, that kind of stuff.
So Sundu again uses the vision shield and kind of holds the bottle up to the sun and like swishes it around a little bit. He's looking at the energy patterns that are vibrating off of it and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he should roll Probably a medicine check for that, right?
Medicine, correct. Either that or investigation, whichever one you prefer.
Oh, they're the same, so. How they do? Not bad.
That's great. So you can tell that it is a full-blooded Oni. There is blood mixture of there is genetic mixture, I should say, or energetic life force signatures of human and your people's elven blood mixture in there, but not significantly enough. If it were a DNA test, it would be like 1% and 3%, let's say. Okay? But he's full Oni, full ogre mage. He has no parasites or any debilitating medical conditions that you can tell, besides being an Oni and the traditional things that are wrong with Onis. But it does not have any parasites.
No parasites. Oh.
Okay.
Oh, maybe we need to start checking the rest of the people of the town for parasites.
Yeah,
So
maybe it was.
what do you say?
Did you say that out loud?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, because I'm just trying to, and I guess this OC here, I'm just trying to determine whether, like, this parasite is like a thing, because this is to treat parasite in normal beings, but maybe to the Oni, it's just like that's what they eat. Or it's just,
So,
well, I guess, actually, Sundu, okay, jumping back in, Sundu, during your time, did you know what the Oni eat? Are they meat eaters, plant eaters? I mean, this to me seems like something they'd either use for medicine or as a delicacy. It might be able to pinpoint where these guys are currently hiding if that's what they prefer to eat.
Culturally, the Yoni of my time was nearly a different species from this. But as far as what their digestive system can handle, I don't know, should I roll history or something? Or?
Yeah, go ahead and do that, and I'll let you know that Shu said, I see where you're going with this, but the only the princess or only the queen was on this medicine.
I think
not
likely
not her
it's
maidens.
one of two things.
So you know that the Oni live along the mountains. When they were in your time, they lived up in the mountainous area away from the forest, right? They would invade the forest, and they were like really dead set on erasing you guys from existence. And that you can gather now that the deserts have moved. They could have stayed in the caves and caverns along the mountains range, right? Like where the mountains met the forest. Now the mountains meet the desert, and so it would make sense that they're still there. And where that herb came from, particularly, is an area where they were known to be at one time a long time ago, in the previous age.
Does this herb make you more receptive to telepathy or more telepathic?
It makes you more receptive and telepathic, but
Okay.
it also prevents parasites from being able to sustain them. If there's enough of this herb in your body, it will prevent parasites from being able to attach themselves.
Okay. Emperor, would it be possible that we might get a sample of blood from someone in this kingdom? Someone who's been close to the queen?
And he takes out his blade and he cuts it, and he like does like this, and a little drop of blood comes onto, and Fauji like grabs the thing and puts the vial there. And meanwhile, Shu looks at you and he's like, you can tell the ancestry and being by just looking at that. And you look at the kings or the Shintos, and you see that he also does not have any parasites, and that he is very healthy, and in fact, like a very, very viable specimen of this bio group. Like you can tell that his human sequencing is pretty significantly good. Like he's well put together.
Who else? Because there was a number of ogre mages, right?
There were 3. The queen's 2 maidens and the queen. And the 2
And
were...
then I asked if they had been acting strangely at all.
And the prince kind of... the Shinto kind of flushes. He kind of gets, like, flushed, you know, like his cheeks flush. And he says, well... He looks around at everybody kind of like, he's like, well, she did behave differently in the intimate time.
Enough said.
and like the tension in the room is like everybody like wants to crack up, but like nobody will.
and so, guys, I almost wonder if we haven't detected any parasites, whether that's just to throw us off. If this herb is known to have ties to telepathy, maybe it makes it easier for the Oni to use a body as a host versus the parasite portion of this herb.
I don't believe that the Oni actually use the body. I believe it's an illusion that they cast to look like the person.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
But fitting dialogue given. Oh, and by the way, what? Roll a 20-sider for me, Loyal. Or here, I'll roll one for you. Would you?
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Nice.
Great. So what it makes you think of is in your time, you know that you don't know the details, but you get the sense based upon the medical procedures and tests and ways that you have to go through different rooms and different irradiation rooms and all sorts of other things, that there is, from the Chuthules, some kind of a parasitic experience that takes place whereby people can be taken over and they can look and feel and look just like normal, like what you're supposed to look like, but are actually run by the Cthulhu's. Right? Like the Gua'uld, right?
Okay, so in my mind, this would almost be the Oni themselves are protecting themselves from the same threat that we are also fighting against.
Do you say that?
But only one of them was?
Well,
Yeah, I totally. I'm like ruminating. I'm thinking out loud to the group.
Yeah. And you only know of one other case of that, like back in your time, one person that had that experience where, and they died from the experience. But they were basically like a version of the Cthulhu, a part of their species was a parasite and would take over the host instead of looking and being and acting like a mind flayer, let's say, or a cephalopod. They were actually like a parasitic cephalopod that took over the host.
And did you say that parasite can't be detected in the blood?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay. Then I'm also going to say, pull out my knife, and I'm going to cut my hand, and I'm going to say, I think everybody needs to get tested in here. All right.
And
I immediately pull out my knife and do the same.
And Prince Ji-Zhan is like, he looks at his dad, and his dad's like, and you see in that moment his dad questioning whether his son is actually his son or not. You know? Yeah. So it's a big feeling between him and his son, and like it's like whoa. And so the son does it, and then Viziri, he's like the last one, and he's like, oh, okay, you know, he's kind of like a coward to do it. He doesn't want to do it, but he does it. And Sundu, you look at all of the different bloods, and Shu is watching you very closely. He's like, how are you doing this? And he guesses that it has to do with your visor. But yeah, nobody else has the parasite.
Okay,
But I will say, you know, your insight there, Loyal, is pretty significant and shouldn't be overshadowed. It's almost as if they're protecting themselves from something that they're having to deal with.
My next question then is, can we go back to the stone and can we examine that? I mean, did the queen have access to the stone? Could she have been creating some sort of telepathic link with the stone in which she was communicating with something that might be dangerous?
So you gathered from your experience of them opening the doors in the temple for you that that they were the ones that were responsible for it, right? They were the guardians of the stone. And Sundu, this would make sense with your understanding of how it was taken care of in your tribe. It was generally the females who were the ones who were engaging with it and tending to it, right? So there's that bit of information for you.
Then I think we need to examine the stone once again and see where communication can go with that stone.
Okay. Okay. Is that what everybody wants to do? Does anybody want to, deal with the alchemist in here for any longer?
No, I'm good.
Actually, I do.
Okay.
I turn to the alchemist and I say, "Can you make me a potion of the same exact variety that you made for the queen?"
And he says, yes, of course. It's simple. I would need more of the herbs, and I think I have some downstairs, but, we could go gather some more. And he looks at Fauji and
I think that we should take this potion. Whoever is going to be communicating with the stone needs to take this potion to be experiencing whatever the ogre mage might have experienced when connecting with the stone.
Okay, sure. He's like, it would take some time to make. It's like not an easy process. It's like, you got to boil things and cook things down and decoct them. It's going to take like, a greater part of a day, maybe 4 hours. But he's like, yes, I can make more. But I've been making some for the queen, on a regular basis. So I actually have a couple vials ready, if you want them. So yeah, never mind that in terms of waiting for it. And he also, so you guys go back to the room with the Tui Stone. Fauji and him stay in the alchemist room. Like he doesn't, the Shinto doesn't. There's no reason for Fauji to be there, right? So you guys go back to the room. I will say that you have other things, right? Not just these clues, but you have other things. And tell me what you want to do in the Tui room.
Other things? What do you mean other things?
Well, you gathered 3 things from the Ogre Mage. You gathered a spell book.
Oh, yeah.
A scroll.
All right, yeah, I'm going to try to privately examine those.
Okay, roll for me. Stealth check.
Stealth check.
Well, to be honest, I imagine he probably checked those items out before he came back into the room with everybody. You know what I mean?
Well, I was with the prince at the time coming.
Yeah, he hasn't really had an opportunity to do this.
Hey, 21.
All right, cool. So while everybody's shuffling into the room and kind of reliving the whole experience and looking around and examining things, you pull out the scroll. Is that what you said? Or the book?
Yeah, scroll and the book. I want to get a glance at both, but...
Okay, so you quickly look through the book and you see a couple spells of your choice for first level and second level, whatever you like.
Okay.
We'll say 5 spells. You choose how they go. And you see a map, and it is of the kingdom, and it has an X up in that area that I showed you on the world map earlier, just north of that lake.
Okay.
But that's scrawled into the spell book. Like, it's got all of these kinds of notes. You know what I'm saying? And then in the scroll, you look at the scroll and there's nothing on it.
All right. So when we get back into the room, I'm gonna go back over to the ogre mage and act like I'm re-examining him and be like, "What's this?" and pull the scroll out.
Okay.
And then open it up.
Yeah.
And be like, blank paper. For some reason, I highly doubt that this ogre mage was keeping a piece of blank paper hidden for no reason. Vizier, do you have a way of divining what might be on it, or perhaps Sundu with your visor?
Yeah. I'm gonna check it out if I can. Oof.
Oh, awesome. No, that's great. I just did a blanket perception roll because I was going to ask whether you should do a stealth check, but I just decided to do a blanket perception roll. So no, everybody was like busy looking at the room and did not notice you take it out of your bag and be like, look what I found. And so I guess, so we've got Prince Jijan, we've got Shinto-ji and the Viziri. in the room with you guys, and you say, "Look at this scroll. It's empty."
Oh,
something roll again. I didn't see that.
totally empty.
What was that?
I was to look at the scroll. I don't know if investigation is the right thing.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah,
no, you got your visor.
that would be it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, it is an investigation, and you're looking at the scroll, and nothing seems to be
Still looks blank, huh?
It looks blank. Yep. And for all intents and purposes, you're like, why are you showing me a blank scroll? You found like.
I'm gonna take out my gem and say, Sunyu, is there a way for me to activate this by just having it on my forehead? Why does it have to be attached to something to my forehead for it to work?
It's beyond just having the crystal itself and having it close to you. There's an incantation and a preparation that must be involved. There's a crafting procedure that you must go through in order to fully utilize it. I'm sorry to say.
Oh, and by the way, yeah. So you can get in the course of this, we won't need to role play it. Somebody in this castle actually does that. They're like, and you'll get like, you've noticed that all of the archers have gambits like headpiece, right? Like that's part of their uniform here. So it's a natural fitting for what you want, but it has to have metal. The way it has to be done is it has to have a metal housing for the stone, and that metal housing has to touch certain parts of your dome. So it's like creating.
Want to make that for me?
Yeah, so it's basically like a cloth, headpiece, but with internal metal circuitry on it.
And how long will it take to make?
2 days.
Okay, so right now at the time we don't have the ability to look at this paper without it.
Can I cast detect magic on it?
You do. You cast detect magic on it, and it is magical.
Okay, well, I'll tell him that. It's not just paper. I can sense it does have a magical aura about it.
Would an identify spell allow me to see what it is?
An identify spell? Oh, to identify what it is?
Yeah.
Yes, technically.
Then I shall cast identify.
Now you have that. That's great.
Yeah, I forgot I had that. Still new to this whole wizard thing.
Wizardry.
Yeah, let me just look at the spell, identify real quick. Just to see what its parameters are. If it is a magic item, you learn its properties and how to use them, whether it requires attunement, and how many charges it has, if any. If you learn whether spells are affected by them and what they are, blah, 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 blah. You can tell that it is a tethered teleportation scroll. It is a scroll that you can use to teleport between two tethered locations.
Are the words now visible to me? Like, could I actually use the spell?
Yes.
All right, gentlemen, we all have our own potion now as well. Is that correct?
He was able to give you the 2 potions that he had available. So there's 2 potions. You mean the anti-parasite potions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Gentlemen, what I feel that we need to do. At this
Loyal,
point,
roll a 20-sided for me. Oh no, you can't. I'll have to do it. 1 second. What's your modifier for history?
Nice.
Never mind. You don't need it. You got it. You can tell that the way that the parasites worked was it wasn't like you can just catch it. You know what I mean? There's like a specific medical procedure that has to be undergone for you to get it, and you would know.
This ogre mage had the parasite.
It's more like an attack. Like imagine like how a mind flayer would have to grapple you and then attack you to take your brain out. That same game mechanics would have to happen, Loyal, for one of these parasites to get you.
But if you had the potion and it attacked you, nothing would happen?
If you had the potion, you'd probably have a greater chance of resisting it, let's say.
Okay. I believe that I know where this scroll is going to take us, and I think we should spend a couple days preparing, because I want to get my headpiece, and I want to get some more potions before we leave. But gentlemen, I think we're going to the desert.
And Shintoji says, is that where my wife is?
I think so.
And you will help me get her? And he's kind of like
We will.
hopeful and is that?
I can't guarantee that we will be successful, but I will promise you that we will do everything in our power to bring her back to you safely.
And he looks at the Viziri
And
and
satisfied.
what'd you say?
Very loyal.
All right, cool. And so everybody's on board with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
So
and
who's gonna really impress upon the Shinto? You must stay here to guard the stone, or if not you yourself. I mean, I understand if you would want to
No.
go on a quest to find your wife.
he's like, I'm going. And Prince Xizhan says, me too. And he's like, no, you will stay here, and you will be in charge of the stone with Viziri. You will make sure that nobody comes in or out of this. And he gives him like a whole litany of shit. And he's like, you are stepping into your manhood now. You are going to take responsibility with your first kill, and such an insignificant kill at that. When our very livelihood and reason for living has been threatened, you stepped up. You will stay here, and you will provide rulership for the kingdom in my stead while I am gone. And I will return. And he gives him like all of his rules, and basically like, don't stay up, no candy, no girls over, that kind of stuff.
No parties.
Oh, and
Shinto.
during this time, while you guys are in this room, I missed the opportunity to bring him in, but what will have happened is now that he says, he yells and he says, get me Fulong and Quencho. And these two guys hop in the room.
Yeah, it's exciting so far, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. It's cool because I'm totally my character between me and then my character himself, with this whole parasite thing and stuff. It's such a mystery. I'm used to just I'm all right, cool. We head from point A to point B and we solve this to end up at point C. And right now I'm this whole parasite thing is throwing me off. I'm like, fuck, are we focusing on the parasite? Are we focusing on the Oni? Or what are we focusing on right now? I'm highly enjoying where this is going.
Oh, very
It's all
awesome.
going to be made clear in the desert.
Yeah, and also think of it like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? I'm going to be dropping lots of Easter eggs about things that are going to be relevant later, and they might not be relevant right now. They might not be immediate threats, but they are something that plays into the story and defines it.
I got you. But my character, but Loyal, totally. He's in this realm of thought where he's shit.
Right.
This is why I came back in time.
Yeah.
This specific parasite is why I'm here and why I'm doing what I'm doing.
That's right. Because it is an immediate threat in your time. These Cthules are pretty bad, and but that the parasites are not they are not what they are. They're sort of not even henchmen. They're a branch of their species that serves a specific purpose, but they're not the ones in charge or even high up on the hierarchy.
So this will almost be like a scout then.
Could be.
Okay.
And from what you can tell, none of those Oni, from what you can ascertain, none of those Oni had the parasite. That.
So I'm also going to ask the Emperor, before we leave, to supply us with whatever he can, healing potions.
You guys, you'll see. You're going to have a whole battalion with you. It's going to be an interesting next episode. But let me
Will that teleportation work for that many people?
We'll see.
Okay.
Let me go take a leak, and I'll be right back.
All right.
All right. So we're back, and the Shinto Ji calls for Fulan. He says, "Get me Fulan and Quencho," and these guys come running in, and Fulan is basically he comes in and he has a helmet on, that goes down like this, and with one of these things in the middle, and you can tell Redfoot that he's wearing that same headpiece that all the archers wear. It's part of their uniform, and he comes in and he has a cape over one shoulder, and you see he's got a spike, a pole arm, and then he has 2 katanas, and he's got plate mail armor, like a banded plate. And next to him, a man comes in who is bald, and he has basically robes on, but they're leather. They're like it's like a thicker kind of leathery robe that goes over one shoulder, kind of like the Avatar Aang people, right? The Airbenders, and it's not those colors. It's blue and purple. Okay, and he's bald, and he's very simple. He's got tabby boots on and those robes, and like the tabby boots tie up and lace up all the way to like the calf. So they're tall tabby boots with these puffy blue pants and like a blue sash, and blue robes on top with like purple long sleeve tight clothes underneath. And he has a wooden bead necklace on, and the Shinto says, and they both look like serious dudes, both in their late 40s. You can't see the general's hair, but you could imagine that he would have some gray hairs given his countenance. And he has a beard actually as well, and there's some gray hairs in the beard, and it's kind of like it shoots down like and wildly, but there's like white at the onset of his mustache area hairs. So they come in and they're surveying the scene, and they're like, and they both bow and they say, yes sir, yes sir, what can we do? And they says, put together let me remember his name, Fulon, put together a troop, 10 men. Get them ready, that we will be preparing to leave for the deserts of, I said the name earlier. He says, we are preparing to leave for the Shinju Mountains in 2 days. Prepare a battalion of 10 men, desert warfare. And he bows and he says, yes, sir. And he goes out. And then he says, Quencho, you will be joining us. You will be my right-hand man. Oh, no, he says, yes, you will be coming with us. Viziri, you will stay here and make sure that Prince Jijan has everything he needs to run the kingdom for the days while we will be gone. And is everything understood? Viziri bows. The monk looks at all of you guys, and he looks at you, Sundu, and he kind of surveys you in a very slow and steady manner, and he says, yes, Shinto, and he bows, and he stands there. Is there anything you guys want to say or do?
Over the next couple days, or just right now in this moment?
In this moment, and then also for the next couple days.
So with the body of are we still like chilling around the body here?
Yes, you are in the body is right here, and you guys are wherever you want to be set up. The Prince Shijan and Viziri leave. Okay, they go out. Loyal, Lachlan, Sundu, you are here. Shinto Ji is standing there with you, and so is Quencho. Fulon is no.
Examine the body and see if there's any clues, like the jewelry or clothing, about if there's like a specific clan or a certain. It sounds like we've got a location, but I'm trying to see if there's any other identity markers on this Oni.
Roll an investigation check while I sip on my moonshine.
Not bad, 18.
So, in the olden days, from your time period, there was one main kingdom of these Oni, right? One main monolithic identity, cultural identity, right? They didn't have a number of different tribes. This was one of the benefits that they had over your people. You had a number of different tribes, and everybody had to kind of agree on certain things, and they didn't always get along, but you always knew that the Oni were your enemy. These guys all were part of one monolithic culture that were opposed to all of your different tribes, and they would actively try to root one tribe against the other, because your people were chaotic in nature, chaotic good, generally speaking, as a cultural identity. Theirs was lawful evil, and so they tried to use your chaos against you and pit your different tribes against one another and make it look like one tribe did this to the other tribe. So they were mischievous in that regard, right? But they were all part of one monolithic culture. And to the degree that this Oni has some of the same body markings, where you would expect to see bioluminescent tracks, he has freckles or stripes, but they're like blotted, not bioluminescent. What else you notice is that the degree to which they would keep themselves clean and heinous, they weren't dirty creatures; they were very clean creatures. But this looks like a like a homeless version of them. Like this one would be like one of the homeless ones, but it was trained well enough to be, like it's all unkempt and all of this stuff when they used to keep themselves very, very clean and very studious and fastidious. This is unkempt, even though it was playing the queen, who is also, very, very much that. So it must have had, you gather that this one must have had a greater degree of intelligence out of his kin that were, the two maidens who died in the electrical fire, that it must have had, some greater degree of intelligence. So those are the things that you discover with that investigation and insight.
All right, cool. Thanks.
But nothing specifically like that would designate it as, where it came from particularly. But the Shinju Mountains, you've known them to have bases and outposts there.
Okay. Well, that checks out, I guess.
Yep. All right, so if there's nothing else in this sequence, what we'll do is we'll do like a quick montage towards the next few days. Lachlan, I imagine you would end up back in Shu's laboratory and have another conversation with Fauji. I would imagine. Do you want to discuss those things now?
Yeah, I want to discuss with him. When we have a chance to talk privately, he's there. I also want to talk business. I also want to see if he'd be willing to teach me some potion making if he actually takes part in that.
Okay, great. So why don't you give me a roll, persuasion roll? 20-sider, persuasion. Loyal, what would you like to be doing during this montage, the next 2 days? Is there anything you want to explore,
Probably just like honing my fighting skills and getting prepped for a battle. Like I'd probably follow the same routine, like pre-gaming essentially, like for the battle itself. Because like I'm pretty sure we're gonna fucking pop out here and fight Oni, as soon as we get over there. So in my mind, I'm probably trying to maybe up some techniques from somebody in the castle. If there's anyone I could train with specifically who might benefit me in a way that I'm not typically used to.
Great. So what you do is you end up hanging out with the general. Like you look at this is your wheelhouse, right? He is a general. He is putting together a group of 10 men, and your military training. You guys kind of like get along as peas in a pod. Like you find out that he has a wife and kids. That he is very loyal to the Shinto and what the Shinto itself means, and how the Shinto is a very honorable man, and that he's like he is honored to be able to use his full capacity as a man to support his kingdom. And yeah, you guys, while you're getting the troop together, you're figuring out what the desert situation's like. You're showing him some things about desert training and desert warfare, and so you guys go back and forth, and it's actually you build a nice bond in that time. Do you check out your sword or the Tui Stone at all?
Yeah, I definitely make contact with the Tui Stone again. Like, I feel so connected to it and everything around it that generates energy now at this point. Like, I probably at some point or another, without, I guess there's guards in the room, so it's not without anyone watching me, but it kind of is stealthily as I can, or not even
no,
stealthy.
you
I'm
have time alone in there.
People,
You can have time alone in there.
On my own time, I'm going back to the stone, and
okay,
and I'm gonna touch it again. To be honest, yeah.
Okay, so you do have time in there alone. Like you three have become like treasured and honored guests, blessings into the kingdom. Even though this horrible thing befell them with you, and because of you, there's a sort of like trust and admiration that you guys are going to help find the queen. Like, this is a good thing, and so you guys are pretty much honored guests. You can walk wherever you want and do whatever you want, and so you can find a time in there alone. And what happens is, as soon as you come inside this ring with these 4 pillars, right?
Mhm.
It's like walking through that jello shield again, right? And as soon as you do, the electricity starts arcing off of you again between you and the Two Eye Stone. The rest of the room doesn't look anything different. It just looks like you can actually feel the energy field, and you can tell what the governor, the chandelier, is doing in calibrating the vibration of the Two Eye Stone so it doesn't like go off its rails. You know, it's sort of like being held in an electromagnetic housing. Make sense?
Yeah. And so, do I feel you mentioned the sword earlier, and so do I feel any kind of like drive to draw a weapon in the vicinity of this thing? So essentially, like, how do I know that it's connected to my weapon versus not? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
when I'm in the presence of it, do I feel the power coursing through my sword? Do I feel it, coursing through myself? Do I have an urge to explore the energies flowing through me?
Yes. So what happens is you're curious. You're about the sword, so you pull it out, and your medallion, your holy symbol that's around your neck that Colombia Mithrael gave you in the first meeting, it's pulsing, and the electricity pulses from the Two Eye Stone through you, and you can feel it warmth at the necklace, and then arc straight to your sword. And when you have your sword out, the sword becomes it's like a normal sword, but then when you pull it out, it looks like the visor, the heads-up display, the vision shield that Sundu has. Like it's that same translucentness, but glowing. Does that make sense? Like the edges of it, you can see the edges of it in light, but the sword itself is translucent, and translucent in the manner that the Two Eye Stone is. So it looks like a sword version of the Two Eye Stone.
Okay.
There we go. We can hear you.
So wait, the amulet becomes a hilt, or the amulet itself connects energy-wise to my sword?
Exactly. It's as if they're a pair, and that the Two Eye Stone is somehow a part of that circuit.
Okay.
And while that happens, you feel the incessant and ever-present consciousness and awareness of Colombia Mithrael, your elven deity of love and justice.
So I have an erection the entire time I'm next to the stone, right?
There you go. Yeah. The electricity is coursing through your veins. And on that note, we'll go to Sundu. Is there anything you want me to?
Oh man. I was gonna investigate the stone, but it sounds like there.
Yeah. No, you can find another time when you come and investigate the stone, and I can give you some insight.
When Sunday walks into the room and I'm in there naked, just like bathing in the radiance of the stone, I just look over at Sundu and I'm like,
Sundu is like, sacrilege! I shall slay you.
For surprise, kind of trying not to crack.
Attention.
Yeah, I just look over to him, and then I just look back at the stone, and I keep bathing in the stone's radiance.
Indeed, the Two Eye Stone is a powerful artifact that we kept. We fostered among my family line for generations.
I see. Your line has done great work with the stone.
Mithrael is a hell of a drug.
Oh god, this is great.
Oh jeez.
All right, so
really, we need to like pack up and roll out to the desert, right? That's kind of the next step here.
yeah. But if you want to take a look at the stone, and then I'll finish up with Lachlan's montage. Is there anything particular you want to do with the stone?
I mean, I just want to see if, can I feel the jello thing when I walk in close to it? Do I feel the air get heavy?
You definitely feel like there is a deeper presence here. And whenever you have been in touch with the Two Eye Stone, you have always felt like a palpable field. The electrical stickiness that he was feeling, you do not feel, but you feel like the quality of existence and the coherence of the atoms in your body, like, are more. Everything makes more sense when you're around the stone. And so, are you wanting to examine it again with the vision shield?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
So when you come in and you do that, you can actually see how the calibration of the governor, the chandelier, was off a little bit, and you actually know how to fix it, and you know how to put it back into its like proper calibration, and so you set about doing that. Yeah, and you do really well at making it. Boom! All the parameters are back within proper working order. As you are finishing that, and kind of just surveying the scene, you look into the stone, and
glaring at Lachlan too.
What's that?
It was his, kind of glaring at Lachlan because it was his grappling hook that knocked the.
Oh, right, exactly. Like you're
the chandelier apart.
But it's funny because Lachlan's rolls, like, if you remember at Zoo's temple, at like he tried to jump across the thing, but like he slid across the water instead a little bit, and that's what got Zoo out and woke him up.
Yeah.
It's like all of these things. Lachlan has been like the catalyst for like the next big like thing that takes place, and whether the rolls are good or bad, it's worked out perfectly.
What I do.
It's what you do. Catalyst for truth.
Trouble with that grappling hook.
Yeah. So as you're looking into the stone, you're used to getting into a reverie with it and sort of like meditating upon it and gazing for answers for the future that you may or may not know, but like because of the way that your race is built and the way that you have held the seed of time as part of your tribe's consciousness and being, you do your general meditation with the stone. And oftentimes in the past, it has shown you things in the future and given you glimpses of it. And in fact, like you have one of those sincere deja vus now, remembering when you were, 3 years ago, beginning your work with the Tui Stone and saw yourself in this Asian weird alien temple, gazing at the stone, and that there are elements of friendship, because if you remember Zavifa, the counterpart of yours who was not chosen, she was a wizard, you were a druid, you actually grew up together and were close friends, and you were like, she was like the girl version of you, in a sense. It was like you felt this intimate bond with her, and like there was question of it was going to become burgeoning love and all of these things, but your tribe has very specific rituals and about all of that. But you see pictures of her, and you see you see space, empty space, like starlit space with the planet below you. You catch a glimpse of that. You catch a glimpse of the moon, the two moons in the sky, truth and illusion, and that illusion is a darker moon. It's like dark gray, whereas truth's moon is pure white. And Lachlan, that's the moon that you're used to, and Loyal, that's the moon you're used to, truth and light. But you see the illusion moon, and you're kind of like going towards it, but you're on a seafaring vessel, and you don't quite, that kind of image flashes in and out. And then you see a desert situation, but you see like caves underneath and temples, like ancient temples, and that flashes in and out. And you see the three of you there, and then you see one of these Cthulhu's, right? Like almost as if like it's biting at you, and that one of its parasite, like one of the little parasite versions, is like, in the alien mouth where it comes out, the little thing comes out.
Yeah, the second mouth.
Yeah, that's basically what they look like. Yeah, and you see like the Cthulhu, and it spits, and one of those kinds of things flies at you, and like you're boom back in the room.
Oh,
all right.
Geez.
So
it comes back out with a start like.
Yeah. Yep. And so Lachlan, you find out over the course of the days that when you kind of level with Fauji, and he's like, we basically, because it's such a small town, such a small kingdom, like we're the shady guys, but we're useful and we're all on the same team. So we'll go be shady guys in the other kingdoms, and he's basically like a spy network in the 4 other kingdoms, and they do thievery and different things, kind of like your guys' network back in Seer, and that he's all about the Shinto. He's all about his people. His mom was the Shinto's like cousin or something like that, you know? Because it's still so small of a town and so small of a village. There's like maybe like a couple thousand of them. They're all still pretty relative, you know. And so, and he also says that he will go for Shu. Like part of his people, they're like they're thieves, spies, and rangers. You know, so they're going and getting a lot of the medicines and spices that has helped the Guanzhou dynasty burgeon and grow. And so between him and Shu and you're like, well, you know, we need some spices, dog. So you set up a network like you did with the Golden Lotus, and you also tell Shu and Fauji about the Golden Lotus deal, and you know he's like, oh, we'll get the Shinto in on this, and we'll hook it up. You know, so basically like they want your business, and we'll supply you with, you know, whatever you want. Basically, like you want wine and sake, cool. You want spices, they got you. And I've done all the figures, and we will determine how. I'll tell you how much we did the rolls last episode. How much you're going to make each year or whatever, but it's significant, so that as you travel through time, you're basically like rich, bitch. All right.
I want to talk to them. A couple other things I want to try to do.
Mm-hmm.
One, I want to talk to them about also setting up perhaps like. Basically, I'm trying to make us a contact for the Mithrilhawks, information contact for these lands.
Done.
So I'm going to try to, can't remember what the CA term is for that, but when you like kind of court someone to be a informer or informant.
Yeah, got you. So basically, you're like, yo, join my squad. We're the dopest, and and why don't you roll a persuasion check for me?
Oh, I did. I rolled a.
Oh, you rolled a 20, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. We'll just use that as the general business role for you working this whole operation, and so basically, he's going to give you and you're going to have to do a ceremony with him. And he's going to have to do it with his people, with his crew. So like on the day before you all leave, you do this thing where you guys share blood, and you put each other's sigils. I don't know if you have a sigil for your guy, do you? Like for wind shear?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, growing up on the streets, he's probably never had something like that before.
Okay.
So he might have to think of one.
Yeah, why don't you do that? Come up with a thought of what it looks like, and we will canonize it. And but that's essentially like I'm the way I'm seeing it is like he's saying, well, you need a sigil. Like this is how we do things. And so maybe you do the Mithrilhawk, like the actual like hawk symbol or whatever, or maybe you have a wind shear symbol. Whatever you want to decide. That's what you do, and you come up with it at that time, you know, during this montage.
Okay.
So if you come up with the idea, we'll canonize it, and I'll draw it and everything. And then and then you want to get your headpiece made, right?
I want to get that, and I'm also interested in A, maybe learning some alchemy, and B, if I saw them, if anyone was using them, I'd like to see myself a wakizashi.
A wakizashi. Is the wakizashi the short katana?
My sword, like this big.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Isn't it? Wait, is it a nodashi or a wakidashi?
I think a wakidashi is the short sword.
Oh, okay. And the nodashi, that's like a what? Isn't that like a 6-foot sword or something?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's gangster shit.
So if that's possible, I would like to get one of the small one.
Okay, so Yeah, you can get a wakizashi, and give me 1 second, eh? And you set up the business. You now have the headpiece. You have to pay like 200 gold for the mithril that he had to use to attach it. Because Sundu helped you, and he said it has to be this way, and it has to go here and here. And you work with the guy, and he's basically like making circuits around. He's attaching it to the gem, and it has to go and touch here and here, and like here and here, or something like that. So you have like inside this helm, or inside this cloth that's shaped like Gambit's headpiece, you have some metal pieces in there, and they're touching. And so now you have now it's working, and you're able to attune to it and figure out how it works.
So yeah, I'll mess around with that. Of course.
Okay.
I kind of look at everything with
You what?
I kind of use it to look at everything for a while.
Okay, and you can tell that you are able to. It adds a 10% onto your tracking. You're able to see. It's imagine like the Mandalorian's helmet, where he can see like the footprints and stuff. So it helps with that. You can analyze the makeup of things. You can see if they have like the life force energy that moves the Tui Stone and whatever. And you can see in the dark, you can see heat signatures as like like Predator kind of, but like it's like you can see in the dark, and you can also see heat signatures. So like infrared and infravision.
Okay. Awesome.
And probably more.
Gave +1 to armor class too.
Oh yeah, +1 to armor class as well too.
That's when it's active.
Right. Does it give you any kind of pluses to striking?
No, it does not.
Okay. Awesome. Well, guys, if it's okay, I need to call it tonight.
Okay, give us 2 minutes, all right? And and what we'll do is we'll just leave it at a cliffhanger. Sounds good?
Yeah.
And so at the end of the 2 days, you guys do all of these cool things, and you have leveled up as well, right? We are now all at 5th level, or some variation thereof, and you guys get together with the scroll, and you all stand in the Tui room, and that's where I imagine you would be, right alongside the Tui. You guys have a quick discussion and determine like it makes more sense that we do it in here. If anywhere in the kingdom was the place to coordinate towards, it would have been here, right? So, and maybe the electromagnetic field allowed 2 of them to come through. So you guys all gather. The Shinto is there, and Quensho the monk is there. Fulon the general is there. He's got 4 archers and 6 guards with him. Okay, I don't have them all on here just yet.
Are we stocked up on healing potions or any other kind of helpful potions?
Yeah, I'll say you can each have 2 healing potions. How about that?
Sweet.
All right, and what happens is you guys, you look at the scroll and you read it, and the Tui Stone starts electrifying. Loyal, the sensation is very similar to when you jump gate, right? When you go from the 5th age to now, okay? And both of you guys, Sundu and Lachlan, same. The energy is like that, right? Like when you teleport. The electro field is there, but it doesn't move you in the same way. Like you see the landscape, flash by you, and you're standing there. It's like literally like you're teleported, right? It's just a lot of electricity and electromagnetic energy there, and you guys are teleported right into the middle of this desert where this path. If you see the map, are you able to see the desert map? Right?
Yeah.
You guys, boom, are all of a sudden out in the middle of the desert, in the middle of the morning. You guys left the morning, and you are here out in the middle of the desert. And to the south, you can kind of see that there's like that lake that I talked about, but there's very, very little vegetation, and you see these rocks, and you see to the west about like a 5 to 10 mile walk. You see the mountain pass, the mountain ranges start to edge out of the desert, and you can see more terrain that looks like these rocks. to the west.
Okay, and so we're not like right at the base of the mountains. We're in the middle of the desert.
Correct.
Like we're still a range away from the mountains. Okay.
Correct.
Sundu is going to take the form of like some kind of a desert coyote type, like a dog animal.
Okay, cool.
Just for ease of travel in the desert.
Okay, awesome. And what happens is like the archers and the soldiers all like line up and get in their respective positions. And General Fulan starts yelling. He's like, "Arrange yourselves, into formation. And he's looking to the Shinto, and Shinto-ji is like, he's looking at you guys, and he's like, "We head to the mountains, yes?"
I would spend my notebook and looked at that map to make sure I knew the exact location that was marked.
Yeah, so you can't tell specifically where you are right now in relation to that, but you can gather that, you're pretty much just due east of that location.
Okay.
If you were to guess, you would say, like,
We head east. I'm also going to turn my visor on and look for tracks.
So you don't see any specific tracks simply because it's been a great amount of time. You can gather that nobody has been out here doing this yet.
Okay.
And so what happens is, like, as you guys are looking around, Loyal, do you want to do anything? Sundu, do you want to do anything real quick?
To be honest, I'd actually probably suggest that everyone take hiding spots, and it to be honest, with a teleportation scroll that is leading to an exact spot, someone is watching the spot. Like, this isn't just a random spot. This is a designated spot. So, and I honestly probably should have said this before we teleported. Like, when we get there, like, fucking hide, because if this scroll is taking us to an exact spot, then someone knows that someone is returning to this spot. So we should probably try to play it as we are them returning versus an opposing force that is returning, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
And it being early morning in the desert, depending on how far we can travel, it might be best we stay hidden until nightfall.
Right, and try to play it up as we are sneaking in versus we're just here as an opposing army. We don't want to get all the Oni stirred up before necessary.
I'm already pretty uncomfortable with this whole army thing.
Okay, great. So then would you have said that before you guys had teleported? Like, wherever we get to?
I think so.
Yeah, and that would be, you and Fulan have agreed to that beforehand. Like, you guys came up with a strategy as the military men, and we're like, it's likely that they're going to know where we're going to be, or that we're going to be teleporting into an area that's highly used or being watched or whatever, so that everybody scatter immediately, right? So Sundu and Loyal, Lachlan, where do you guys want to go? This is what it looks like. If you were to follow this, these rocks or whatever, if you follow,
let me switch over to my map.
Yeah. If
where's it at? Where you at?
So if you were to follow these rocks, can you guys hear me? Sundu and Loyal, Lachlan?
So we're over here in the desert.
These rocks...
Yeah, so essentially I would say we just essentially take cover between all the rocks. Like, we scatter to, 360 degree range of the rocks and just kind of take cover as necessary. Nothing totally specific, because I assume we don't know anything about the spot we're landing, but my kind of advice as a military person is as soon as we hit ground, as soon as our feet touch the ground, you scatter and you find the closest cover, because there may be incoming fire of some kind.
Okay, great. So, Fulan, everybody's running and going to all these different spots. Quensho the monk comes here. Shinto-ji is with his squad over here, and he goes up to the pinnacle here. Loyal, if you want to, where would you like to be? You want to be between Sundu and Lachlan?
Yeah, That's totally cool.
Okay, so you guys all kind of like immediately start running to the rocks and kind of like positioning yourself at the base of the rocks and whatever. All the archers and guards run up here, and what happens is, like I said, it's the middle of the morning, and the Shinto, he's like, "What is that?" And he looks off to this area. Do you see this? That ping? And and what you see is the ground like rumbling and like sand and stuff being kicked up. Got it? And it basically what?
I'm gonna ride me a sandworm.
That's right. And this sandworm is coming real fast
Oh shit!
right through this little pass here.
Nice. Get through the tunnel.
Right through the middle. Okay.
Yeah, and it breaks
so
out of the sand. You guys
Okay.
all get up to these rocks, and
Dune is happening.
yeah, and you guys can tell that these rocks, you know, they continue west, and if you follow them, that's kind of where your mark ends up, Lachlan. Got it?
Okay.
So this sandworm is traveling very fast, and it busts out of the sand, you know, just right, and you see it's moss, you know, like the teeth, like all like going.
Stop there.
And we'll stop
Yeah.
there.
Oh wow.